Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. The big news for today is Prime Minister Modi's visit to three European nations, that is Germany, Denmark and France. But before we go deeper into the significance of these visits, just a reminder, if you're one of those thousands of students who are following the Target Prelims 2022 crash course that started on 30th of April on our YouTube channel, just a reminder, tomorrow, that is 4th of May, you will have a class of international relations starting sharp at 7:30 p.m. as always. Do join in for that to revise international relations from the point of view of current affairs for the prelims examinations. Now let's resume our big news session for today, and this is about Prime Minister Modi's first foreign visit in 2022. As you know, the Prime Minister Modi landed in Germany on 2nd of May. After one day, today that is, he will be visiting Denmark, and tomorrow he will be going to France. So he aims to cover three European nations in these 3 days to ensure that our closeness with the European nations stays intact and we find a common ground in the ongoing crisis of Ukraine and Russia, and also discuss some other important issues. It must be noted that this is the Prime Minister's first foreign visit in 2022. His last foreign visit was to the Glasgow summit in November 2021. Now, the first pit stop of his visit is in Germany. Now, if you look at the India-Germany relationship, you would find a few common grounds. Germany has always been regarded as a very conservative country in Europe. Conservative country as in they don't really make a lot of statements. They are a very powerful economic country, but you don't really see its mention in other international affairs like you see in case of US or China or France or Russia. So it's a conservative country in that sense. However, with India, they have had a pretty good relations. Since May 2000, in fact, the two sides share a strategic partnership, and they also have the intergovernmental consultations going on since 2011. In fact, the sixth installation of this consultation was held during the visit of Prime Minister, who was accompanied by India's Foreign Minister as well. As you know, Germany is in focus mainly because of its dependence over Russia for the import of natural gas. Germany, however, has promised to reduce its dependence on Russia when it comes to supply of natural gas and other fuel. Not just this, there is another important change in the stature of Germany. Since the World War II, Germany has been keen on not really focusing on defense and army, but focusing more on its economic prospects. But now, because of the aggression of Russia, Germany has decided to increase its defense spending, which is a departure from what Germany used to stand for since the World War II. Also, Germany currently holds the G7 presidency. And it will be interesting to see whether or not Germany invites India to be a part of the G7 Outreach Summit in June. The G7 Outreach Summit is the one where non G7 nations who are close to the G7 are invited to be a part of this dialogue. Because India has not condemned the action taken by Russia, it remains to be seen whether India gets this invite this year or not. Both the nations, as you know, are also a part of the G4, that is India, Germany, Japan, and Brazil, who are demanding a change and their inclusion in the UN Security Council as well. The next pit stop for the Prime Minister, where he is landing today, is Denmark. Now, you don't really hear a lot about Denmark in our day to day life, and that is mainly because we don't really have a lot of trade between the two nations. However, there are some key areas where India and Denmark can collaborate and have been collaborating for the past few years. The Nordic nations, which also include Sweden, Finland, Norway, Iceland, etc., have been known to be the world leaders when it comes to using of clean energy, innovation, education, healthcare, human rights, etc. You would have seen that whenever we have such kind of an index throughout the world where you talk about the quality of living, where you talk about how the people are living their life, you would see that mostly the Nordic nations, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, are at the very top. And the reasons behind those are the kind of socialism that is practiced in those nations. Those are socialist nations, however, not the same version that we see in India or Asia. They have been able to pioneer the concept of clean energy and they are relatively pollution free. And this presents an opportunity for India also to collaborate with these nations on these particular aspects. In fact, India started the India Nordic Summit since 2018 to explore the new areas of cooperation between the two sides. Recently, the Danish Prime Minister also visited India, as you can see in the photo here. However, as I said, apart from the collaboration in these areas, the trade between the two sides is not that great. If you can see the trade numbers here, India's imports from Denmark in terms of $1 million is not even 1,000. It's not even $1 billion worth of import that India has with Denmark. On the other hand, India exports about $841 million of commodities to Denmark. So, not really a lot of trade to talk about between the two sides. The third stop of Prime Minister Modi would be in France, which is by far the most significant relation that India has in European nations apart from UK. Now, France and India have always shared good relationship between the two. In fact, in 1998, the two sides entered a strategic partnership. Also significant is the fact that France was amongst the very few European nations that did not condemn India after the 1998 Pokhran test. If you remember, after the 1998 Pokhran test, India in fact had to face multiple sanctions including from nations such as Japan, US, etc. But France was the one nation that stood by India and said that India has a right to protect itself and India has a right to test this kind of a technology. Not just this, France has always supported India's claim to a permanent seat in the UNSC and also India's membership to key international groupings, be it the MTCR, that is a Missile Technology Control Regime, the Wassenaar Arrangement, the Australia Group, and even NSG, where India is still to be a member. So, if you see the history between the two sides, at every single step, whenever required, France has stood in support of India. Another example of it was seen in 2019. After Pulwama attack, France listed the Pakistan-based global terrorist Hafiz Saeed even before this listing was done in the UN, thus highlighting the fact that the two sides do understand each other's point of view. Not just this, another interesting coincidence here is that we are two of the unique nations in the world right now that are in constant touch with both the sides that are waging the war against each other, Ukraine and Russia. Both the French President and the Indian Prime Minister have been having constant dialogues with the leaders of the two nations, and it is expected that these two can play a major role if the war has to come to a peaceful end. Now, India France relations, specifically, as I said earlier, have been very robust over the years. Many of you might not realize it because we usually assume that Russia is the one that supplies most of our weapons and Russia is the one that supports us in nuclear energy. But France also has played a major role. In fact, over many decades, India's Air Force has been very dependent on equipments and planes from France only. And this goes way back much before the deal of 36 Rafale planes. In fact, in 2005, India had an agreement of getting 6 Scorpion submarines with the help of France being built in India itself. The two sides have also cooperated in the energy sector, with an agreement being signed for building of 6 European pressurized reactors as a part of agreement between the Nuclear Power Corporation of India and Areva. In space also, the two sides have collaborated. In fact, France helped India in setting up the Sriharikota launch site many decades back. Now that India has progressed leaps and bounds, we are more of equal in the space collaboration and technology. In fact, France has also become the first country to cooperate with India on India's first human space mission, that is Gaganyaan. Now, this short visit to the three nations is also seen as India's way to outreach to Europe, mostly because it is seen that the European nations are feeling that India is giving much more importance to other nations in the past few years, to the US, to Australia, to Japan, even to China, but not really so much importance has been given to Europe. And that is what India wants to correct here. In fact, ever since the war has started, we have seen foreign ministers of multiple European countries coming to India, be it UK, Poland, Portugal, Luxembourg, etc. And that is why India also wants to return this favor and make sure that the two sides are on the same page. Historically, India has tried to come closer to the European community in multiple ways. In fact, India has been trying hard to sign the free trade deal with the European nations that has not come about till now. But the two sides continuously collaborate on political, security, climate change, information and technology, health, and other related issues. This is it for today's big news. Thank you so much for watching the video.